Then let's move on to our last winemaker for today. So we showcase the beauty and diversity and the versatility of Solaris now, starting with a traditional method sparkling wine from Denmark, continuing with a steel tank driven Solaris wine, 5 months on the lease from Winnicatona in Poland. And now we had the Imelin Solaris based blend, 85% at least Solaris from Sweden, with a good touch of oak maturation too, and a nice full complex body and 13% alcohol. And now I would like to move on to the fourth producer, also an exhibitioner at the Cool Climate Wine Summit from Germany, Rheinhessen, the Bio-Weingut HEMA. HEMA is family driven, more than 40 hectares in size. That's very typical for Rheinhessen producers. They are fairly large despite being family driven vineyards. It's here Andreas HEMA together with his brother and his nephew running the winery, creating a wide portfolio of different styles of wines, from very lovely, easy, drinkable goods wine level to fairly high level like single vineyard wines, and then also like something like Solaris. So they are a member of Ecovine. We have a good amount of Ecovine producers at the Cool Climate Wine Summit. They work definitely after biodynamic principles to recreate the soil, to improve the soil. It was a kind of an eye-opener when we visited them like over summer, because they have this like lovely little winery, and then there are like a lot of like plots of land with wines around, and you go in, and then some of the parcels and some of the hectares are owned by HEMA, and some directly next to them by some like a neighboring vineyard that is exactly not working biodynamically. And if you stand in a vineyard and you look to the right side and you see somebody working after biodynamic principles, and you look on the left side and you see somebody working after conventional principles, and you look at the soil, then when I looked at HEMA, it was kind of very apparent in the eye that you saw like 14 to 20 like different types of bugs, spiders, worms, and whatsoever within 20 seconds. And then you go to this like vineyard on the left that is like conventionally driven, and you don't see anything. It's just soil. You don't see any animals there. This is the kind of very interesting takes that I invite you to when you're ever in a vineyard at some point of time. Go in and have a look, especially the contrast, biodynamic, non-biodynamic. It's kind of interesting to see what's happening just with the biodiversity in the soil itself. Yeah? So this is sums maybe a little bit up the philosophy of the HEMA estate for me. It's like typical Rheinhessen producer, big variety of grape varieties, from very easy, simple wines to fairly expensive single vineyard wines. But most important thing is they try to do things as clean as possible and as lovely as possible. And when I asked Andreas, why have you started planting Solaris? And he told me basically, the idea was, of course, again, a sustainability idea. We wanted to have grape varieties like PIWI varietals that need less intervention in the vineyard, because less intervention in the vineyard, first and foremost, means more natural products, right, in the glass, and of course also less costs. But the initial idea they had was actually having here something that, so to say, you can produce fairly cheap and with minimum intervention, and then basically you can use it for Federweißer, for example, as a use case. But then they very quickly realized, oh my God, and this is what I told you before, very early on, Solaris reaches the 100 Oechsle point and then just shoots through if you have a very lovely warm summer like you usually have in Rheinhessen. And then they were like, okay, with this sugar potential and this still like intact acidity, let's try the third one. So they did here in, when was it actually? 2020, this Beerenauslese that I'm now pouring myself in the glass. And this is kind of interesting to have a taste on, because I also like personally, I never had a dessert wine based on Solaris, but I know that a lot of winemakers in Denmark are, let's try this. It's probably the future. And they even think about botrytis affected dessert wines and so on and so forth. I don't know if this was actually botrytis affected. The fact sheet is not saying anything, and HEMA also was not giving me like any ideas about it. But it's definitely interesting example, just looking at the color. Yeah, it's now not even like lemon. It's nearly getting this typical like golden dessert wine touch, which is very beautiful, with fairly lovely typical dessert wine aromatics, but also not too extreme. It definitely reminds of Solaris, so it's kind of interesting how a certain touch of like elderflower, of vegetal aromas, a little bit greenish, but also with green apple, green pear is still like in the underlying layer, then paired by dried peach, dried apricot in a certain regard, acacia honey, very nice oily, creamy substance again, and also some chemical hints, so to say. Yeah, some maybe some bandage or some hospital connotation here in the nose. It definitely like in the nose feels already thick layered and like oily, and you expect already it is a dessert wine. It's probably syrupy, which it definitely is. Very nice, mouth-filling, liquid honey, green. I think it's very green to my extent, and highly aromatic, apple, quince, peach, very much peach, acacia honey, beautiful. 8% alcohol, so yeah, typical for a Beerenauslese, has something like 7 grams of acidity left, which also I think is pretty nicely paired with this like about 140 grams of sugar per liter. Really goes nicely together, gives a good overall experience. Very long, lovely finish. The peach is hanging there in the aftertaste, some petroleum notes, some nice hint of some chemical notes somehow. So beautiful example. The wine was made also like in a lovely advanced way. They used, for example, like 20 hours of maceration for the wine to give a little bit of extraction, to give a little bit of like power and density. I think you can also feel a tiny bit that there is like an underlying tannic structure here, not very predominant, but there is definitely some depth, there is some structure. Beautiful. Yeah, the quince, pineapple coming out here very nicely, good complexity. It's super interesting and super lovely example of that Solaris has an amazing dessert wine potential, and it's really just interesting to see what especially the Danish and the Swedish winemaker, if they find the right plots where the positive use of botrytis might be possible, what they will make out of this in the future. So this is also like something I'm looking really much forward about, to see the innovation with this grape variety, the development with this grape variety. Yeah, beautiful walkthrough here with 4 different types of wines. Thank you very much for being with me here today.